If there's a moment in your life that splits you in two, it's this one. You look at your phone, you look around the room, you look at the people you call family, friends, team, and something inside you finally admits the truth. No one is coming. Not because you're unlovable, not because you failed, but because life is about to teach you the oldest lesson of the psyche. The self is forged in solitude. For most people, this moment feels like abandonment. They call it depression. They call it betrayal. They call it proof that the world is cruel. And honestly, mate, it makes sense. The nervous system hates being alone. The ego panics when the room goes silent. But there's another type of person, rare, inconvenient, dangerous in the best way, who experiences this as an initiation, like cold water, like a door shutting behind you, not to punish you, but to stop you from waiting. This isn't your tragedy, it's your threshold. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to turn zero support into an unfair advantage. From the moment you were born, you were conditioned to be dependent. School taught you group projects, religion taught you congregation, society taught you networking. You have been brainwashed to believe that the only way to move up is to be lifted up by others. It's not what you know, it's who you know. We've all heard it, we all nod. And it is poison. When you rely on who you know, you are admitting that you are powerless without them. You are handing the keys of your destiny to people who act based on their self-interest, not yours. Because dependence creates comfort, and comfort creates obedience. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Most support isn't free. It's a leash made of kindness. Because the moment someone saves you, a quiet contract forms. Maybe it's never spoken. Maybe they even swear they expect nothing. But the psyche remembers. When someone rescues you, you owe them. Not on paper, inside your chest. You start editing your choices so you don't seem ungrateful. You hesitate before you take risks because now your failure would feel like you wasted their help. When someone funds you, they don't just give you money. They buy influence, a vote, a say, a portion of your future. And suddenly the dream that was yours becomes a committee meeting in your head. And emotional support, this one is the most invisible, can become the most addictive. Because when someone comforts you, your nervous system learns, I can only calm down when they're here. So when they pull away, you don't just miss them, you panic. Not because you're weak, because your body got trained to outsource safety. That's why a safety net is tricky. Yes, it can catch you, but it can also become a spider web. It holds you and it shapes you. It decides how far you're allowed to fall, how high you're allowed to climb, and how much of your true self you're allowed to reveal without losing the thing you've been leaning on. And if you want real freedom, you have to stop confusing support with strength. There is a place Jung would recognize immediately. Not a breakdown, not a failure, but a psychological ground floor. It's the moment you take inventory of your life, your money, your contacts, your options, and you realize there's no safety valve left, no backup plan waiting in the wings, no hand reaching out from the dark, just you looking back at yourself. This is the 0 point, and to the ego it feels like death, because the ego survives on mirrors, approval, reassurance, confirmation that you're on the right path. When those disappear, the ego panics. It calls this isolation. It calls this danger. It calls this the end. But the soul experiences something very different. The soul feels relief because at the 0 point, something heavy falls away. The performance, the explaining, the waiting. You are no longer negotiating your future with anyone else's expectations. You are no longer calibrating your truth to keep support intact. There is nothing left to lose except illusion, and that's why this place is sacred, because if no one is holding you up, no one is holding you back. If you have 0 support, you have zero masters, and for the first time your life belongs entirely to you. What breaks most people isn't loneliness, it's the hunger to be seen while they struggle. They don't just want to succeed, they want witnesses. They want someone nodding, someone saying, "I believe in you," while the work is still unfinished and uncertain. So they talk too early, they explain their vision to people who don't have the language for it. They share raw ideas with minds trained for safety, not possibility. And slowly something subtle happens. The vision begins to shrink, not because it was wrong, but because it's being translated for comfort, softened so it won't scare anyone, edited so it won't sound arrogant, delayed so it won't make others feel left behind. This is where your power leaks out. Not because you're alone, but because you're trying to be understood by the wrong audience. Validation feels harmless, it feels human, but psychologically it's a trap. Every time you seek approval, you hand your center of gravity to someone else. Their reaction becomes your compass, their doubt becomes your hesitation, their silence becomes your fear. And before you know it, you're no longer building from conviction, you're performing for permission. The moment you stop begging the crowd to stand beside you, your energy returns, because real power doesn't need to be witnessed to exist. So here is the first discipline of zero support. Become quiet. Not quiet because you're ashamed. Not quiet because you're afraid to be seen. Quiet because your soul is incubating something that cannot survive constant commentary. Every time you announce a goal too early, you spend energy you haven't earned yet. Every time you say, "big things coming," your nervous system gets a small hit of relief, as if the work were already done. That's not confidence. That's emotional spending. Silence, on the other hand, does something most people can't tolerate. It creates pressure. When your vision lives only inside you, unshared, unapproved, unsoftened, it starts to press against your walls. It becomes restless, it becomes heavy, it demands movement, like steam trapped in a sealed chamber. It has nowhere to escape except through action. This is why the ghost phase works. No audience means no performance, no commentary means no distortion, no witnesses means no need to explain yourself. You wake up with something inside you that has to move because it has nowhere else to go. The anxiety you feel isn't weakness, it's stored momentum. Most people talk away their power, you don't. You let silence sharpen you, you let pressure build, and when you finally move, you move with force. But we have to tell the truth. Working alone hurts, not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, private way. Like realizing you've been carrying something heavy for a long time and nobody noticed. You will grieve the life you thought you'd have. The cheering section, the proud of you texts, the friend who checks in without being asked, the family that actually understands what you're building instead of asking when you're getting a real job. And if you don't name that grief, it will poison your work, it will make you bitter, it will make you perform toughness while secretly begging to be held. Jung would say this is not just sadness, it's an identity dying. You are mourning the version of you that needed permission to exist, the version that needed someone else to clap before you could breathe, the version that thought love had to come first before you could become. So yes, this is a funeral, and it matters that you attend it, because if you skip this grief, you will keep chasing ghosts, you'll keep trying to win support from people who can't give it. You'll keep shrinking your truth just to stay close to comfort. But when you grieve consciously, something clean happens. The attachment breaks, the fantasy dissolves, and you stop waiting for a world that isn't coming. You finally stand up as you are, alone, but real. So I want to ask you, honestly, what did you have to mourn to become who you are? When nobody is there to push you, you need something stronger than motivation. You need a law, because motivation is weather. It changes, it disappears, it lies to you at 6:30 a.m., and tells you you'll do it later. And later becomes a lifestyle, so don't build your life on moods, build it on structure, not a to-do list. A to-do list is a wish. A protocol is a contract you don't renegotiate. Here's the protocol that replaces support when you have none. 1. Morning victory. The first battle is not your job, your inbox, or your problems. It's the negotiation with yourself the moment your eyes open. No snooze, no debate, no just 5 more minutes. If you lose the first negotiation, you teach your mind you're not in charge. 2 deep work blocks, phone off, door closed, disappear. 3 to 4 hours total where you produce something real, something measurable, not planning, not scrolling, not research, that's really avoidance. Deep work is where your life actually changes. 3. Information diet. If your mind is your main asset, stop feeding it junk. Cut content that makes you smaller. Drama, outrage, comparison. Read what makes you sharper: philosophy, strategy, craft, skill. 4. Evening audit. Look yourself in the eye and ask, did I move the needle today, or did I just perform productivity? No excuses, just data, then adjust. And be honest with me, which part do you struggle with most? The morning, deep work, the information diet, or the audit? Most people run to networking because they're trying to borrow power. They go to rooms hoping proximity will compensate for absence. They shake hands instead of building hands. They trade business cards because they don't yet have proof. Networking feels productive, but psychologically it's often avoidance. It's easier to be seen than to be skilled, easier to talk than to build, easier to ask for attention than to earn it. When you're starting from zero, you don't need rooms, you need results. Value doesn't travel through conversation first, it travels through evidence. Build the skills so well it speaks for you. Build a body of proof so undeniable that explanation becomes unnecessary. When you do this, something important shifts inside you. You stop needing permission. You stop trying to impress people who have nothing to offer you but access. Because real leverage doesn't come from who you know. It comes from what you can do consistently under pressure without applause. You don't chase the iron, you become the magnet, and magnets don't beg, they don't pitch. They don't announce themselves, they quietly pull everything aligned toward them. So if you feel invisible right now, don't panic. Disappear deeper into the work. Let your craft sharpen in silence. When the value is real, the world finds you. And then something strange happens. You start to win in silence. Quiet wins, private progress, results that arrive without announcements. And the people who vanished reappear. The ones who were busy, the ones who didn't understand, the ones who watched from a distance while you carried the weight alone. They smile, they soften their voice. They say, I always believed in you. They say, we did it. And something in your chest tightens, because this is your final test. Not a test of success, but a test of clarity. You don't need to expose anyone. You don't need to explain the nights they didn't see. You just need to remember. Remember who held the stone with you when the castle was still an idea. Remember who stayed when silence was heavy and outcomes were uncertain. This is where many people lose themselves again, not to failure, but to nostalgia, to the hunger for validation that once starved them. But clarity means understanding this truth. A castle built alone cannot be protected by strangers, so you stay polite, you stay grounded, and you keep your circle clean, because not everyone who returns deserves a key. This is not loneliness, this is sovereignty. Loneliness is waiting to be chosen. Sovereignty is choosing yourself. Fully, finally, without witnesses. You crossed the hardest part alone. You built strength when no one was clapping. You learned to stand without leaning. And that changes something permanent inside you. Here is the paradox most people never reach. Once you no longer need support, you can finally give it. Not from hunger, not from obligation, not from the hope that it will be returned, but from fullness. You become what you once needed, not a rescuer, but a signal, not a savior, but proof. You can recognize the ones who are still walking through the empty room. You can offer guidance without control, support without ownership, presence without chains. And yet, you never forget the silence. You never forget the nights no one checked in, the moments you had to clap for yourself in an empty room, because that sound, the quiet applause you gave yourself, is what made you unbreakable. That memory keeps you grounded, it keeps you honest, it keeps you sovereign. And if this landed somewhere you can't quite explain, that's not random, that's your psyche recognizing a doorway. Subscribe if you want more journeys into the psychology of becoming, the kind you don't learn from crowds, only from truth.